Hey there, folks. My name is Matt Whynott. I am the Executive Director of Sherbrooke Lake United Church Camp. We are located, if you know Nova Scotia at all, we are located about 30 minutes inland from a little place called Lunenburg, which is where the Blue Nose comes from. So if you know that at all, that's where we are located. We are a 3-season camp for summer camp for kids. We typically, in a normal year, we operate from sort of 1st of May to the end of October. So I'm going to welcome somebody else who's coming in here. So obviously, just like many other ministries and organizations across the country, we as camps, now I say we, I say we because, of course, I'm sort of here to talk a little bit about some of the camps that I certainly know of, who have done some amazing things this year from the COVID world. So I'm really happy to be here. I just want to, for those of you who may or may not know, I want to kind of give you a lay of the land as far as what camp ministry means to the United Church of Canada. And sometimes people like to know numbers. I'm certainly that person, and I think it's a really great story that we're able to tell as camps across the country. There's 55 United Church camps across the country in every province, and it's quite a fascinating thing. Over the past number of years, those numbers have gone down, but we've actually petered out, I should say. We've actually petered out to the 55 that we have now, and we've seen very few of them closing in the past number of years. 25,000 kids, ages anywhere, it depends on the camp, but in ages 6 to 16 come to one of our camps across the country, and we employ almost 1,000 young people. And now, in fact, many of our camps are actually adding staff, year-round staff. We are now actually up to 11 full-time or part-time executive directors who work year-round at camps, so that they can help their nonprofit boards do some of the really important work with connecting with their families. 1,500 volunteer board members that are part of it. If you were to take all of the money that we invest as 55 camps into the young people of our church and outside of our church, you're talking over $20 million worth of investment that goes into the ministry of our camps. And it's quite incredible if you think about it, right? It's the fact that we have, in fact, many of our camps, you would actually probably 35 to 40% of the kids that come to our camp are more than likely United Church people, or affiliated with the United Church. The 60% or so, or in some cases even higher, are not even affiliated with our church. So in fact, I argue many times that our camps are doing a lot of that scary E-word evangelism that we don't necessarily like to talk about all the time in our church. So I think it's a really cool story that we're able to tell as individuals, that we do some amazing work in our camps. So yeah, and so one of the things that I think, one of the really awesome questions that when COVID hit in March, many of us, just like many of the churches or outreach ministries that exist within the church, of course, asked ourselves the question: well, how can we do the work if we can't meet in person? Because for the various amounts of time, for the longest time, we've asked ourselves that question of, what if we couldn't meet? How would we meet? So the question that we asked ourselves, or we certainly encouraged folks to ask, was, does our mission actually change because of COVID or during COVID? And the quick answer is no. And many of us took the term and used the term in the camping world that I certainly did at our camp, which was, it's not camp, right? So let that sink in for a second. It's not camp. It is it is not that there was a a lot of us were afraid of that the relationships wouldn't be built, right? That there are kids who thrive on camp because they are welcome, they're loved, that they're that this is the one of the safest places that they feel that they can come and be themselves. And many of us who work in camp know those stories. So the thing that kind of the common thread for many of us was that there's connection, right? That every camper staff member, there's always a connection, whether that's between people or a connection to the land and the space in which we gather. There's also the relationships that are built, whether that's between, and I don't mean any, what I mean is the relationships between staff, each other, staff and their campers, board and their staff, board and their campers, and the entity of the individual camp with their churches. So there's that piece, and then of course that sense of belonging that so many people say that camp brings and allows them to feel welcome no matter where they are, who they love, or financial background that they have. There is that piece that we do. So those were kind of the sort of common threads that we felt camp brought, ultimately building community. And so, that's what we were afraid of. And so there were numerous calls with camp people right across North America, regardless of denomination, regardless of nonprofit or for-profit camps, many Zoom conversations that took place. And one of the interesting parts that I found for me was that I was able to connect with someone who might have been in Minnesota, to Florida, North Carolina, to little old Nova Scotia. And we were sitting there, and there were times where people would just be sitting there crying because we don't know what's going to happen to the place that so many people call home and so many people love. And so the cool part about the camp community is that you just felt like people, regardless of where they lived in North America, had my back, and that you could talk about the fears that existed. So those were sort of the things we knew we've always done, and we knew that we were building the community, but then of course there was that fear. The reality is about camp people is that we are probably, now of course we all think this, but other people outside of camp may not think this, but we think that we are very creative people. So as I always say to people, the worst thing someone can tell me about an idea is no, right? Because if I think it's a good idea, it can work at camp. And so, this notion of how do we do camp, but not normal camp, was hard. And of course, as we all know, that feeling, and it's funny, I'm getting these feelings in my stomach going back to what I remember, those day-to-day updates that we were getting from the governments across the country. That feeling that everybody had was, oh my God, something new, something else we've got to figure out, So camp people are pretty innovative and pretty creative. And I think in a lot of cases, we were able to weather the storm, at least for now. Some camps weren't, but some camps were able to do that. I think what's scary is some of the numbers that are coming out from the Canadian Camping Association around, that 40% of camps in Canada are going to eventually shut their doors and won't be in existence next summer if things don't change. And so that's 4 million kids, 4 million total kids that go to summer camp every year in Canada. So, 40% of that's a lot of kids who may not be able to get the chance to go back to their home camp. So that's the struggle right now in the camp world, is that there's this feeling, again, going back to, it's not necessarily imminent, but there's a feeling, what happens in 2, 3, 4 months from now, when we start ramping up again for what would normally be a normal summer. So comes the innovation, comes the reality that a lot of camps took it upon themselves to say, okay, since we can't do camp, what do we do? So in the Maritimes, in New Brunswick, the PEI, and Nova Scotia, the 4 camps in these 3 provinces came together and said, hey, we could support one another. We put a grant application in to various sources within the church. and we're able to get a quite successful amount of money to help support our programs that we were going to do. So we did Camp in a Box, where kids, parents bought camp in a box. It was different by camp. So some camps did it so that they come on Zoom and they do these, do interactive programs, where some camps just got them a box with 11 to 15 activities, and we're able to go to a YouTube page and learn how to do friendship bracelets or whatever through the staff that were on pay or on staff through the camp. So that was a great success. Our camps have never worked so closely together, and we had some difficult conversations, right? Because 4 camps applying for the same amount of money, we as camps agreed, look, some camps are going to get more kids than others. And so some camps are going to have more expenses. And so that doesn't mean that we're going to split the money 4 ways, right? And so we had those difficult conversations, and they were positive conversations. So that idea around money, and it was hard. We leaned into it, and we trusted one another. And in the end, I think it ended up working out for everyone, which was great. Now, I know that, some camps reached out and retooled what they do, and were a place for foreign temporary workers or temporary foreign workers, which is a great way to bring in some money to help support those people who are coming into our country, to help so farm workers in particular. I know certainly a couple of camps in Ontario, Pierce Williams and Kennesiri come to mind, which was great. I know Camp Firkham out in BC, they switched and retooled to sort of family retreats, and really amped up their day camp program, because of course they weren't allowed to have overnight traditional summer camp, so they retooled there. Sparrow Lake Camp also did some virtual stuff, did some podcasting, and then at Camp Manesnatang, which is in Ontario as well, created new partnerships and did some online stuff as well. So nobody sat back and waited. Right, people were creative. They were able to retool, which I thought was really positive. So, all in all, I think for many of us, we haven't had many of us sort of weathered the storm. But I think the next phase is then, does our mission change now, right? And so if it does, what does 2021 look like, and how can we continue to do what we do and do best, which is making the connections, building relationships, being a sense of belonging for so many kids who really need it right now, and how do we do that in the safe box that we're allowed to do. The other challenge, of course, is that we had different provinces with different unique COVID situation going on, right? So out here, we have in our Atlantic bubble, in the whole of the 4 Atlantic provinces, there are 4 people with COVID right now, right? And I know that's a very different story from different provinces across the country. And so that was also challenging to watch, right? That fear. And I know that many people were feeling that as well. So anyway, so I think right now we're kind of saying, does our mission change now? And so we have a little bit of time to breathe and say, yes, it does. No, it doesn't. Maybe it changes a bit. And how do we make sure that we set ourselves up for success going into 2021? And the cool part that was able to be created because of EDGEy over the last couple of years in the United Church Foundation was the Outdoor Ministries Institute. So we had this idea about a year and a half ago, I guess now, to say we should gather our camps once a month by Zoom, before Zoom was cool. How do we gather us and share ideas and that sort of thing? So I actually think that because of the work that we did pre-COVID in sort of the beginning of 2019, that actually was able to set us up for even more success, or at least maybe not success, but set us up for a community that was able to support one another. And so that continues to build the resilience that we need to get through it together. So that that in my mind was a really great success planning ahead. That we were, hey, who knew, right? We didn't know we were getting into this, but that was able to be a real true success for us. So the Outdoor Ministries Institute met with the moderator. We had one of our most successful calls back in June. Almost all of the 55 camps were on the call, and we're really hoping that we'll be able to kind of get that going again here in the near future so that we can support one another. In fact, the Outdoor Ministries Institute has supported our camps by saying, hey, come and be a part of Camp Boot Camp, which is something that's actually happening for our first session this afternoon. The Outdoor Ministries Institute is actually paying some of the upfront costs for camps. So individual camps only have to pay $50 Canadian, and the Outdoor Ministries Institute will pay the rest to have some of the best camp professionals help walk us through what 2021 will bring. So without that work, we wouldn't be able to do it, and without the support, we wouldn't be able to do it. So that's kind of where we sit and things. I very much appreciate the opportunity to talk to all of you. Here's the thing: camp is alive, and I live camp every single day. I take what I've learned as a kid, as a young person, as a young adult, into what I know now as a good dad, as a great executive director, but also that camp actually gave me the kick in the pants to do the work of the church out in the real world. And I think that's what we strive to do every single day. And if we can tell this story more effectively, it's to more people across the church, because it's where our young people are going. It is where they feel safe. It is not, it is at camp, and that's what we've been striving to do. And I believe that the resilience that we're going to build over the next couple of months will set us up for, it'll be new next summer, but it will set us up for more success. It will be different, but it will set us up for success.